Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Adam Talks Politics. I'm your host, Adam Pearson. Today we're going to be talking about congressional term limits. A lot of people are for them, a lot of people are against them. Some people they don't have any idea or they don't have any opinion. Initially, I was one of those people who said term limits are a bad idea. We have term limits already. It's called elections. Perhaps if we have a good Congress member, why would we vote them out? Just simply, or why would we remove them from office simply because their time is up and put an unknown person in? That may give us rise to people who have no business being in politics because the other person was term limited out. And we may take some really good people out there who could otherwise have stayed in and continued to help the country in ways that other people might not. Recently, though, my thoughts on this has kind of changed because we do have these career politicians. People who get voted in time and time again because they were the person from before. We know them. We know what we get with them. People have a very short memory. So a lot of times people will say, I hate Congress. I hate this person. I don't like their policies. But guess what? When it comes time to vote again, they vote the same person back in because they're familiar with that name. It's name recognition more than this person doing a good job. Or I think this other person will do a good job. So the more I thought about it, the more I said, term limits are not a bad idea. Perhaps in Congress, perhaps in the Senate, maybe 2 terms. You come out and a term in Senate is 6 years to 12 years. In the House, perhaps there are 2-year terms, maybe limit them at 8 or 10 years. After that, they're no longer eligible to run, they have to leave, and we open it up to somebody else. That curtails your career politicians. And ultimately, I think it would be better for the country in the long run. That way you don't have the same people from the same backgrounds. Oftentimes, these people who are career politicians are also very rich, and they're able to continue to fund their campaigns, and that's how they keep getting elected. It's not that they're necessarily the best person for the job, it's that they have more money than the other person. And unfortunately in our country, a lot of times that happens. The people with the most money end up becoming the people in power. It's not that they're better at their job, it's not that they were the best candidate out there, it's that they have more money to throw at it, they have more name recognition. Because when you go to the ballot, the reality of it is, we're looking at name recognition. You look at that ballot, you say, I got John Smith, Jane Smith, Uncle Tom, and Billy Bob. Well, I know who John Smith is. Well, I don't really know John Smith, but I've heard John Smith's name a lot. I don't know anything about Jane Smith. I don't know anything about Billy Bob or Uncle Tom, but I've heard John Smith's names a lot. I've seen a lot of his ads. I'll put him down. I don't know anything about any of them anyway. I'll put down John Smith. And unfortunately, a lot of times that happens. People don't know anything about any of the candidates. They haven't bothered to do any of their research, but they hear John Smith's name the most. So they put John Smith down. Or maybe John Smith's been the person that's been in office for 20 years now, and you don't know any of these other people, but you know John Smith's name because John Smith's been your representative for a while, so you pick John Smith again. That's not fair to the other candidates, and it's certainly not fair to our country as a whole, because John Smith may not be doing a very good job. In fact, John Smith may be doing a terrible job, but you know John Smith's name. You don't know any of these other people's name, so you vote for John Smith again. Now, if John Smith was term limited, if either 12 or 8 or 10 years, depending on whether he was in the Senate or the House, John Smith would be done with his and move on, and somebody else would come in. You'd have new people coming in. Now, it may take a little while to get into the swing of things in the House and into the Senate to actually understand what's going on and be caught up to speed and be doing a good job. That's why I would say 2 years for Senate, which is 12 years. 2 terms for Senate, which is 12 years. And the 8 or 10-year mark for your House of Representatives. Now, we don't want people staying in there forever. A lot of people think that these people, as soon as they come in the door, they get health care for life. From what I understand, that's not the case. You have to do 20 years, just like any other federal government agency. So if these people come in and they do 12 years and they get back out, they don't have that federal retirement. So they'd have to go work at the post office or in the military. If they've had any other federal service, it will add to that. Or if they have federal service after that, it will add to it. And then they could potentially get their retirement. But we don't want career or life term lifetime politicians. They're not good for our country. They become very loyal to their party because they owe people favors, and they also become very loyal to their special interest groups, because you can't stay in office for any length of time and not start owing people favors. Hey, I'm going to help you pass this bill. I don't like it, but I'm going to help you pass it, but you're going to have to help me out too. So the more that snowballs down, the more they owe people, the more they're going to start voting along party lines, because you know what? The Republicans have been really helping you out on your bills, even though we don't necessarily support them. And now we expect your support on these bills. Same thing with the Democrats. They do the same thing. No party is immune from this. And the Democrats point fingers at the Republicans point fingers at the Democrats and say, you guys are political party toters, or you guys are political line toters. They're both do the same thing. So if you're out there and you're a Democrat or a Republican and you're thinking that the other person or the other side does it and your side does not, you're wrong. You're either blinded because you think that your party's perfect and it's not, or you're deliberately denying the truth. Listen, guys, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. Your side is terrible. The other side is terrible. Neither one of them seem to want to work for us, the people. They want to work for themselves, their special interest groups, and perhaps their political party constituents in office, but not the people who put them in office. So, to recap, yes, I think that if you were to throw in some term limits, I think it would be better for the country in the long run. I think if you were to say, you know what, we're not going to let you serve for, 30 years. And here's the thing that gets me, is there are actually people during the Supreme Court nomination who said, I've been here the longest, I've been here for 60 years, and that should never happen. That should never happen. You should not have a 60-year career politician. They're making $174,000 a year, plus nearly $1 million a year in expenses for staff and other areas. And then they get on top of that, they get travel, and on top of that, they get building expenses, building and supply expenses. So these people are costing us several $1 million a year per politician. Now, do you really want one person staying in office that long? They're going to start owing people favors. They're going to have to start doing shady things. They're going to see that they can get out ahead by doing special interest groups. We're already paying these guys $174,000. Why do they need to owe allegiance to special interest groups to help line their pockets? $174,000 is way more than they need to do that job. They're all terrible at it anyway. We're still paying these people who are terrible at their job $174,000 a year to do it. Now, if you're a political leader somewhere, whether you're the House Minority or the House Majority Leader, Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority, some of these other people, the chairman of certain boards, you're getting more money. But at a very minimum, $174,000 what we're paying these people. So if you look at $174,000 and you do 10 years, you're looking at $1.74 million that we're paying these guys. These people do not deserve to get rich off of being a public servant. They deserve to do the job. If they don't do the job, I'd say don't pay them, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, we can't let the same people stay in office, because nothing's ever going to change. The country will never get better if we allow the same people to stay in office. In my opinion, let's start doing some term limits. But here's the thing. The people who have to decide on term limits are the same people who are going to be the ones affected by the term limits, so they're not going to do it. It is going to be up to us, it's going to be up to you, any of you watching, to say, you know what, I'm tired of this, we're holding your feet to the fire. When new candidates come out, you say, do you support term limits? If they say yes, then you can add them to your list of potential candidates. If they say no, they're not the people you want. Even if they have some great policies, they're only in it for themselves. They say, you know what, I want to be a career politician. They're thinking right now, I want to be a career politician, so I'm going to say no to term limits. People that are already in there who have made a career out of it, they don't want term limits, because that means they're going to have to leave. If you've already been in office for 20 years and the term limit was 10 for House of Representatives, you're not going to want to say yes to that, because that means you can't run again. And you're expecting that money. You're expecting the money off of the hardworking Americans' backs to help support your lifestyle. Where else are you going to get out of Congress and go make $174,000 a year? You're not going to do it. You are depending on us. You want us to keep putting you back in office, and you're doing a terrible job. So I encourage each and every one of you that are watching this video to support term limits. And if you're one of those people who do not support term limits, understand I was in the same position that you're in now. And I got thinking about it, and I started doing some research, and I decided that I'm switching sides of the coin here, and I absolutely support term limits, and I hope you guys do too. Again, my name is Adam Pearson, and I've been your host of Adam Talks Politics. Now remember, this is not Adam knows everything about politics, or Adam is a political expert. This is Adam Talks Politics. I'm not going to sugarcoat to anything to you guys, and I'm going to hold our elected officials' feet to the fire in some of these things. I'm going to call them out, whether it's my party, your party, or the entire political system as a whole. So please keep that in mind. We'll start changing our thought process and start holding our political party people accountable, and start holding their feet to the fire. Thank you all, and God bless.